friends, I'm Miss Kara. Welcome to Books Alive, book talks for kids in grades 3rd through 5th grade. I've got quite a stack of books for you here today. I've got some fiction, I've got some nonfiction, and I've got a couple of graphic novels. So up first is a graphic novel. It's called Cody, and it is set in Alaska and then also in the city of Seattle. So our main character in here is called Katya, and she is in Alaska for the summer with her grandmother, and one day she's out in the woods and she comes across a bear who has got his leg trapped under a fallen log, and that bear is Cody. So Katya frees Cody, and then he follows her home and she nurses him back to health, and they become good friends. And then Katya and her grandmother have to go back to Seattle unexpectedly, and Cody is left behind, and he misses them so much that he travels to Seattle to try and find Katya. And there's some really funny things that happen when he does that. So this book, I really like it. It's a story about friendship. It's a story about adventure. It's about listening to your gut. And I think you'll really like it. Up next, we have a chapter book. It's called The One Great Gnome. And in this book, our main character is Sarah, and she and her family have moved from New York City into the country in the state of Connecticut. And so that means that Sarah had to leave behind her best friend and her neighborhood and all of the things that she loved to do at school, so that her mom could have a new job in the country. And so it's their first day in their new house, and Sarah is exploring, and there's a building out back. It's called a potting shed. And a potting shed is where you go to plant new plants or to start your seeds for springtime. And in the potting shed, she finds a gnome. And so she brings the gnome inside, and she sets him up in her bedroom. And then she realizes that he has a little scabbard on his side where you would put a sword. And she's like, oh, I know where that is. She goes back out to the potting shed. She picks it up, and she puts it in a little scabbard, and then the gnome comes alive. And so the gnome says that he is from another realm, and he needs to get back there because the trolls are taking over and the gnomes are not safe, and he had been sent up to Earth to find somebody to help. But obviously he didn't find anybody, and he needs to get home. And so Sarah's like, well, we're friends, so I'm gonna come and I'm gonna help you. So they travel through a secret door in the potting shed into the world of gnomes, and they run into trolls, and they get captured, and then Sarah figures out what's happening between the trolls and the gnomes, and she is able to help them get past their differences and broker peace. And it's a really fun story. It's not very long, and it's got some illustrations in it so that you can see the characters. Yeah, so here they are going through the door into the gnome realm. So this is just a fun little like fairy tale-like book. It moves pretty fast. So that's One Great Gnome. Up next we have a nonfiction. And this one is called How Does Soap Clean Your Hands? The Science Behind Healthy Habits. So it's not just about how soap cleans your hands, but it's got lots of illustrations. It's very colorful. And then it talks about how when you sneeze, you need to sneeze into your elbow like you're dabbing. And I know nobody really dabs anymore, but it's a good way to remember that when you're sneezing, sneeze down, don't sneeze up. And then it says why. And look at all this stuff coming out of his face. Ew! And it talks about the things that you can do to stay healthy. And the kinds of things you should eat to help fuel your body. And then there's some activities at the back that you can try out at home. So that is How Does Soap Clean Your Hands? The Science Behind Healthy Habits. All right. This is a picture book. It's called Butterflies Belong Here. the story of one idea, 30 kids, and a world of butterflies. And as you can guess from the cover, it's about monarchs. And in this book, our main character loves to read about butterflies. And she's just moved to this new town. And so summer comes, and she's looking for butterflies, and she doesn't see any. And then next year, for her class project, they have to research different things. And so she decides to research butterflies, and she gives a presentation to her class about monarch butterflies and monarch migration. And they decide that as a class, they want to build a special kind of garden called a monarch way station. And so they build one outside of their school, and then they get everybody in the community to build some, or to plant some more milkweed so that the butterflies will have lots to eat. So, and then at the back, it's got a quick guide to making a schoolyard monarch way station. So it's got the steps, and then there's some monarch facts, and then some internet resources. So if you are thinking about planning a garden for next year, or if there is something that you want to help improve in your town, then this book is sort of a good guideline for how to do that. All right, up next, you're gonna laugh at me when I show you this book, but I had to make a cover for this book because this book is so good, we cannot keep it on the shelves. So we're gonna pretend like this is the actual book, but really I just taped this picture to the front of a different book. So this book is called Paula, Santiago, and the River of Tears, and it's part of the Rick Riordan Presents books. I don't know if you've read any of these other ones. Rick Riordan wrote the Percy Jackson books, and now he is looking for new authors to promote their books. And they're all kind of the same type of book where they deal with myths and mythology, and they bring it into real life. And it's a hero story, and it's full of adventure. And this book was so good that I could not put it down. So our main character is Paula Santiago, and it takes place in Arizona. And she and her friend Dante are neighbors, and there's a third friend called Emma, and they always hang out together after school, and it's like the last week of school, so it's almost summer break, and they are going to meet up one day, and Emma doesn't show up. So Dante and Paula go to the police station to say our friend Emma is missing, and they're like, whatever, kids. And then Emma's parents go to the police station and say Emma is missing. And so the police then go to Paula's apartment, and they're like, well, why didn't you come to talk to us? And Paula's like, I did. So Paula and Dante decide that they are going to go and find Emma themselves because they think that she's been kidnapped by a ghost that lives along this river who's called La Llorona, who's also known as the Wailing Woman. And the La Llorona story is an old story. It comes from Mexico, and it's a ghost who haunts the waterways, and she's looking for children because her own children drowned. So she's looking for new children. And it's kind of a spooky ghost story. So this story is a little spooky. So Paula and Dante go down to the river, and they wind up crossing into an alternate dimension where all of the ghost stories are real. And so they have to fight off all of these monsters, and they have to go deeper into this creepy territory where all these monsters live to help rescue their friend Emma. So it's Paula Santiago and the River of Tears. So good, so spooky. If you like the Percy Jackson books, you are going to love this one. All right, up next we have... So this is a series. Love, Sugar, Magic is the series, and this book is A Dash of Trouble. And this is a Blue Stem book. So all the Blue Stem Award books at the library have this blue sticker on them. And this book takes place in Texas. And our main character here is Leo, short for Leonora, and her family runs a bakery in town. And in their town, around Halloween, they have a big festival for Dia de los Muertos. And her family bakery supplies all of the sweets for this party that the town throws. And Leo really wants to help out, but she's not old enough yet. So one day she sneaks out of school and she goes down to the bakery and she's gonna make some goods while the family is not there. And she discovers that her mom and her sisters and her grandma are actually witches. And they use magic to make these baked goods taste so amazing. So she tries to do a little bit of magic and it doesn't quite go the way she planned it to go, which happens. And so then she has to figure out how she can make things right. So this is Love, Sugar, Magic, Book 1, called A Dash of Trouble, and you can find it on the blue stem shelf. All right, so this picture book is a little bit of nonfiction, a little bit of a memoir, and I really like it because I really like books about animals. But the author, Cy Montgomery, talks about all of the different animals that she has met through her lifetime and all of the lessons that she's learned from them. So when she was little, she learned stuff from her dog. And then, right, when she's older, she's in the jungles and she meets some gorillas. And then she's in Australia and she meets a cassowary, which is this big old bird right here. Right. In Africa, she meets hyenas. She makes friends with an octopus. So, and then at the back, there's pictures of her with some of these animals. So this was really a fun book because I've read other things by Cy Montgomery. She always writes about animals. And it was just really fun to see her life and her travels and all of the different animals that she's met. It's a quick read because it's a short picture book. All right, up next is a book of poetry. Right, and it looks huge. Look at how huge that is. It's by Naomi Shihab Nye, and she is the Young People's Poet Laureate. And did you know that at the front of books sometimes there's a dedication? So the person who wrote the book can say some things to people who they've written this book for. And so I'm going to read you the dedication. It says, "To all readers and writers of poems everywhere, be brave. Little things still matter most." And so this collection of poetry is divided up into a couple of different sections. But the nice thing about a book of poetry is that you don't have to read it from front to back. You can skip around. So you can just flip through and say, oh, that sounds interesting to me. I'm going to read this. Right? Some of the poems are kind of short. Some of them are a little bit longer. But this is supposed to be for kids who are ages 8 to 12. So if you like poetry, if you just want something to pick up and read a little bit, this is for you. Okay. This next book is by Aaron Reynolds, who wrote Creepy Pair of Underwear and Creepy Carrots. And it is called Fart Quest. I know, ridiculous. So it takes place in a world where you can go to a school to learn to be an adventurer. And then before you can graduate that school, you have to go on a quest with your teacher, your master. And so at the beginning of this book, we have these three folks here, and they are out on a quest with their master, and their masters get vaporized. So they have to decide if they're going to go back to their school to get new masters or if they're going to carry on the quest by themselves. and they decide to carry on the quest by themselves. So our first character is Bartok. He's our narrator. His name is Bartok, but they call him Fart because the first spell he ever learned to do was a spell that turns people into gas, a stinky, stinky gas. Yes, it's a fart spell. And then the other two adventurers are Pan Silversnow and Moxie Battleborn. And so they decide to go on the adventure. They're going to go on a quest. They're going to earn their official adventurer titles. And they come across all kinds of dangers. There's trolls, there's giant bees, there are harpies. But this book has got illustrations throughout. It's very funny. It's pretty fast-paced. If you like adventure stories, if you like stories where the heroes battle lots and lots of monsters, this is the book for you. Up next, Pathfinder Society. This is a graphic novel. It's got a little graphic novel sticker there. So this is the first one. This is a series, so this is the first book. Then it's The Mystery of the Moon Tower. And so in this book, there is a town, and in this town, there is a camp called Camp Pathfinder, and it was founded by a man named Henry Merriweather, and he built the camp to help people train to be adventurous, to navigate their way through the world, to look for things with new eyes. And so our cast of characters here are there, and one of the things at Camp Pathfinder that happens when you get older is that you can go on an adventure to try and find the secret buried treasure at Camp Pathfinder. So these guys are out, they're looking for the treasure, and they come across Merriweather's old house. And when they go inside, Merriweather's niece is there, and she says, well, if you can't find the treasure, the whole camp will have to be shut down. So these guys are solving puzzles, and they're using technology. And they're on a boat in the mist. And this is one of those books where you never know what is going to happen next. And the end is a cliffhanger, so I cannot wait for the second book to come out. All right, our last book is an oversized picture book. It is Batgirl, an origin story. We just got a bunch of these in, all these origin stories about all these different superheroes. And it is a picture book, but it's a lot of fun because it talks about all of the tools that Batgirl uses, talks about the enemies that she fights. Yeah, so we just got in Batgirl, Supergirl, Robin, and Cyborg. So all of those are here at the library. So if you like superheroes and you like origin stories, that one's for you. Those are all the books that I have for you today. I hope that you found something interesting in there. If not, you can always ask a librarian to help you find a book. We have thousands of books, so certainly one of them is going to be right for you. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.